reconnaître qu'on est ici en territoire Kanyanyaka non cédé.
Ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests, my name is Marlene Hale, and I am from the Wet'suwet'en Nation. Let's give the Wet'suwet'en Nation a big round of applause. Let's make some noise. We still didn't hear you. Hello, Montreal. I want to thank you all for coming out for today and lighting candles on the fact that we are distilled in solidarity with the Unistoten and Wet'suwet'en people of Northern British Columbia. My name is Marlene Hale. I was born in Smithers, BC, and I am a member of the Wet'suwet'en Nation. Since January the 7th of last year, we know that it's only a few days ago that it is the anniversary of what has transpired to the Unistoten and Wet'suwet'en people in northern BC was when the CGL, which is the Coastal GasLink company, invaded our territory with an injunction to put a pipeline through 22,000 acres of our traditional territory. What is happening at Unistoten today is why we are all now lighting a candle. In September of this year, Frida Houston, as we all know from the Unistoten camp, she directed all the atrocities that's been happening at Unistoten to the United Nations in New York City. And when this transpired, Frida had mentioned to the United Nations of the Wet'suwet'en people of Canada that she wanted to express concerns for the human rights violations happening to her people. This year, a pipeline company has forced a court injunction on us. If we stop them from entering our territories because they don't have consent, we face arrest. We have not been able to hunt, gather our traditional foods, practice our traditional ways. The company has been security and police force keeping us from exercising our Indigenous rights. Elders, women, and the healing center clients have been threatened with arrest, and the RCMP still tout them as of today for accessing their own territory. The pipeline companies have violated Wet'suwet'en law, trespassing on our territory and starting to destroy the land. They've already destroyed the heritage sites after bulldozing them. Since then, the United Nations said there is an urgency to Canada to heed a call from the United Nations and immediately halt pipeline construction on Wet'suwet'en lands and territories. The RCMP was prepared to shoot Indigenous land defenders in the dispute over construction of 670 kilometers Coastal GasLink pipeline to ship fracked gas. They say projects need prior informed consent, which they did not have. The UN committee calls on elimination of racial discrimination on the Indigenous people everywhere, but mostly on the Wet'suwet'en Nation as of today. Also to prohibit use of lethal weapons, escalating the threat of violence against Indigenous peoples in BC, and forced removal. On September 26th, this has been a long year for the Unistoten and Wet'suwet'en. Adam Gagnon, who is one of the high chiefs, he is a hereditary chief. His name is Zasli. He confronted the Coastal GasLink at a local meeting at our own Wet'suwet'en community hall. They tried to lock him out, a high chief. He told them total disrespect and uncalled for them having to lock him out of his own hall. David Pfeiffer, who's the president of the CGL, was talking to a very small group of what the 3-year construction was going to be starting. These Leha interrupted the meeting. He said, "This is not natural gas. It is the most toxic form of fracking gas, which has an increase of 15-20 folds because of the chemicals to supply a pipeline. You are crossing Laksamichu fireweed territory, which is his territory. The bands have no jurisdiction, he retorted. We all know the protocol between the band council and the hereditary chiefs. The band council have no jurisdiction, and this is who they confronted and signed away. The rights for them to put the 670 gas pipeline through, not the hereditary chiefs. To fight every means, he said, in the old days the rules was by martial law. You got one warning at those days. When you trespassed our territory, you had no consent, you were shot. If somebody was missing, they would simply take you to the body. And that was what it was. It's not like that no more. This was many hundreds of years ago. Now there's no recall. No colonial government would make deals behind our back on our land without our consent, is what he mentioned to the CGL. Since then, Frida Houston presented the Coastal GasLink with an eviction notice, which they did leave almost about 5 days ago. They left without there was no contest whatsoever. As tensions escalate in the standoff between the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs and the CGL, the company posted a 72-hour injunction allowing the RCMP to arrest anyone blockading access back to their work site, which they have. Urban Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities are linking arms, as we know, this whole week, from the 7th to the 12th, all across Canada. Some in the United States, and also like Seattle, and where's the Seattle? San Francisco has joined us, and many countries that are already known all across the whole all over the world now, what is it like to be in solidarity with the Unistoten. Whose law is this? And whose land is this is what it's really all about. We want to thank everyone who is in solidarity with the Wet'suwet'ens all across the lands here, especially all of it has been going on. Montreal has had a very good and strong solidarity with us. Since all of this has transpired now, going back, let's say, the day before this all came out, there is finally some breakthroughs. And what the breakthroughs is that the talks now between the RCMP and the hereditary chiefs are happening. They were going to put the 72 hours and go in, but that hasn't happened. I'm so blessed for that. We were worried about it, but the 72 hours has gone and passed, and what has transpired, I'm on the phone with them every day, and the RCMP's commissioner, not the RCMP, spoke with the hereditary chiefs 2 days ago. They spoke for 4 hours. They went through every detail with the hereditary chiefs exactly what has gone on since they went in January 7th of last year, 2019. After they spoke for 4 hours, they went away. They had a meeting of their own, and they came back with the chiefs and opened up the discussion again. It was very crucial for the hereditary chiefs to let them know, the commissioner herself, was that how deeply everyone in our community has been so traumatized about what happened since last year, that we don't want a repeat of what happened. There was 14 people who were arrested, and the whole year it was just one thing after another in the Supreme Court of Canada. One of the things was the 14 people are arrested, they finally went and had their day in court, but they were never charged. That's the thing. They keep touting them, they keep arresting them, they keep letting them go, and this has got to stop. That was one of the biggest things in the discussions there. We don't want to die, is what they said. We don't want to die at the end of a sniper rifle. We are just only protecting our parents, grandparents, which they won for us through the Demalgamuth and Gastaway court case that gives us 22,000 square kilometers of pristine wilderness that pipeline companies want to trample on and destroy. Our land is our life, our livelihood. Everything we stand for is land-based for us. It's our language, our food, our sustenance. Some wild animals clothe us, and medicinal plants for our health, berries, and the wild salmon, as you know today, is the best in the world, is being hampered right now. Last year, before many of these things was going on, we know what climate change is doing to us. Our salmon came back 3 years ago. There was 3 million sockeye salmon. Last year, there was 10,000. And we now know when fracking it goes on and bulldozing goes on, and it's going to go through the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, and all of that is going through the streams. 5 rivers lead into the Pacific Ocean beyond Prince Rupert, you see, and that's where the dire problem is now. Kitimat is where it's going to end up, and it's supposed to be going on to Prince Rupert. That's exactly the whole trail of the sockeye salmon, and the whole trail of where they want to go. Our relationship to the land is the physical representation of our spirituality. Today, as we are standing here today, we have had many now meetings, and one crucial meeting came to that 2 representations of government in Smithers, BC, is going to their bosses. One of their bosses is Prime Minister Trudeau. The other boss is Mr. Horgan of Alberta. Those 2 people need to now come forth and speak with the hereditary chiefs. And along the RCMP, the commissioner has done their meeting. They need 2 more people. At least we could say they are in the talking stage. And there's going to be no violence, which I really applaud them for that. Our hereditary chiefs have just been begging them, and I think they have really taken a second stance, knowing that the world is watching. The world is watching. Everyone has an eye on the RCMP, everywhere. We all know that they are just not they're not for us. Prime Minister Trudeau last year, he gave the consent to the CGL to go in. He sold us out, plain and simple. After that happened, they moved in, and ever since then they have gone over and over, above and beyond, of going back and forth at Unistoten for no reason whatsoever. We have all seen the documentary right now that has been put out. It's called Invasion. If you have not seen it, look for it online. Frida Houston did an outstanding job on Invasion, exactly what it is on their territory, speaking from the whole year of what has been transpiring. Since then, there has been a lot more films, there's been a lot more action taken. I know that what we were talking about yesterday online with the chiefs and whatnot, they don't want anyone to go against the RCMP. Yesterday we did a talk, and we did it with feathers. The feathers represent that we're a peaceful people. We held that up, and that's what they had when they were arrested, the 14 people. They had 1 feather against all these rifles. And we want to continue that. We don't want to have anybody going on their own in front of RCMP and doing anything that will hinder the talks right now from the hereditary chiefs to the CGL, and to hopefully that Prime Minister Trudeau does come forth and do his due diligence and speak with us, speak to our people, and speak to the hereditary chiefs. And once that gets going, they will not, still letting them know we're not going to back down. There's just no way we're going to let this pipeline go through. Who are we with here today? We're with Climate Action. And why are we here with Climate Action? Because this is crucial. It all goes in a dominoes effect. Whatever happens there is going to happen all over. We already know what's going on in Australia. We already know what's going on now in Iran and many other countries. We already know that if this happens, we've got already on the west coast of Vancouver Island, there's been threats and threats of a huge big earthquake which is going to come. But then they all say, where does that come from? It comes from fracking. And that's where the cause of it is. And if this fracking is allowed anymore in our territory, we're going to say goodbye to 22,000 acres, which is just horrible to even fathom. My name is Marlene Hale. My indigenous name is Maluh. I come from Luxilio, which is one of the 5 clans. On my hat is a frog. I have a frog. I hold this very proudly. I am a Wet'suwet'en Nation, and I'm very proud to say who I am and where I come from. I'm the only voice they have in the East. I've been here since 2012, and I have just been so heartened to do my daily, everything that I need to do, knowing that the struggles that they are going through back home, it just doesn't see that no light at the end of the tunnel. I want to turn this over to some of the youth, to climate action, to knowing exactly who we're standing in solidarity with. And I'm so grateful that 2 days ago we did it with the Indigenous student, McGill, and now it is with climate action.